Yzma wants power. Kronk just wants to cook, preferably without poisoning anyone. And Hades just wants the other gods to respect him. These guys are villains. They're weird, and somehow you still love them. But why? How are they written so well that you like them more than the hero? But maybe more importantly, how do you avoid writing unlikable villains like Prince Charming and Scarlet Overkill? The first thing you need to know about writing a villain you can't hate is to give them a great presentation. Because first impressions matter. Their entrance, style, and theme all signal that this is someone who will own their role. Think of Megamind. He always stresses the importance of presentation. It's not enough to be villainous. You must look, sound, and enter villainous. Megamind's takeover of Metro City is a masterclass in this. When he finally beats Metro Man, he walks up to City Hall with Highway to Hell by AC/DC playing in the background. Smoke, strobe lights, and the anxiety of the crowd mix to create an iconic scene. He wants everyone to know this moment is his. It tells you exactly who Megamind is. Flamboyant, proud, theatrical. His boots, his cape, his fancy gadgets. Everything is calibrated to scream, "I'm the villain and I'm enjoying every second." And we lean in. Even when the entrance is derailed by the incompetence of his minion, we are quickly reminded that we are dealing with someone who isn't really a villain. And that's the point. Presentation is key to explaining a lot about a villain. Jinx from Arcane perhaps gives an even better entrance. We first meet her in Season 1, Episode 4, after she has undergone a physical and psychological transformation from Powder, a timid, unsettled adolescent, to Jinx, a manic but highly skilled and innovative teenager. Her introduction is pure destructive poetry. When a ship from Zon arrives with tanks full of shimmer, the Firelights hijack it. As they immobilize the crew, two Firelights descend to the hold of the ship and accidentally trigger a trap set by you-know-who. This trap causes a massive explosion, and out of the devastation, Jinx emerges. She appears in the most iconic way possible. Standing amidst the smoke, she says,
"Hi."
Then reveals two homemade explosives, which she uses to get rid of two more Firelights. Then she walks confidently towards the leader, gun in hand, like a total badass that she is. She moves like someone dancing through her own destruction. Her colors, electric blue and bruised purple, reflect the storm inside her. Every piece of her design tells her story. The homemade weapons, the rough stitching, the mix of childish charm and menace. You can see the little girl she used to be buried under the punk armor of who she's become. It's tragic, but it's also thrilling. Because when Jinx appears, the world bends to her chaos, and we can't help but love her. That's the power of a good villain entrance. It shifts the rhythm of the story. The lighting changes, the music warps, and suddenly all attention belongs to them. Cruella de Vil from 101 Dalmatians is another queen of this concept. Even before she appears, we hear about her lore. There was that fancy limo turning crazy on the road, the sound of screeching tires, and then, of course, Roger's song.
Cruella de Vil, if she doesn't scare you, no evil thing will.
Then comes the shadow waiting outside the house, and finally, the door bursts open, and she storms in, fur coat blazing, cigarette holder raised like a wand. She's loud, eccentric, and unapologetically herself.
Anita, darling, how are you? Miserable, darling, as you.
But a villain might not have an elaborate entrance or introduction, yet steal the spotlight because of their design, voice, and presence. Yeah, we get it. Death is not exactly a villain, but he is no doubt an antagonist. He is a personification of death, and his design is a masterclass in elegant terror. He is instantly recognizable as a giant cloaked wolf with two simple sickles, which are tools of the Grim Reaper. Everything about Death, the red eyes, the cloak, the chilling whistle is designed to embody a singular, simple concept: inevitability. He is the unstoppable, non-negotiable end, and his simple, profound design elevates the stakes of the entire film. The lesson for writers is that design and presentation are non-verbal cues that are absolutely important to the overall likability of a villain. But here's the thing, just giving a good first impression is not good enough. If it were, villains like Scarlet Overkill from the 2015 movie Minions would not have sucked so much.
You suck!
She is well presentable, yes, but she lacks one more thing that you need to write a villain your audience can't hate. She doesn't have a likable personality. Personality is the bridge between your audience and your antagonist. It's the reason we either lean in with excited anticipation or roll our eyes in boredom. In any character-driven story, personality is everything. You can give a character dazzling powers, a sharp design, or a catchy name, but if the personality isn't built to feel authentic, none of it matters. This brings us to the biggest paradox in villain writing: the deadly line between charisma and noise. Charismatic villains live in that sweet spot where their every exaggerated flaw becomes endearing, making them feel true and believable. Noisy villains, however, try so hard to be iconic that they collapse under their own forced spectacle. We learn the fundamental rule of what not to do from Scarlet Overkill. The very name, Overkill, tells you the movie's intention. She's supposed to be too much, a force no one can ignore. But that's the problem. The name is louder than the character. Look, as far as entrances go, Scarlet's wasn't exactly terrible.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you.
It was actually badass, but that was where most of the badassness ended. Your first rule in creating a magnetic villain is simple: show, don't tell. Scarlet flips this rule on its head. She talks about how powerful she is, how much chaos she can cause, but rarely shows it in a way that matters. It's all announcement, no presence. The result is a villain that feels more like a commercial than a character.
The greatest supervillain of all time?
Now, compare that to Yzma and Kronk from The Emperor's New Groove. These two shouldn't work on paper. Yzma is just another power-hungry court advisor who is vain and egotistical. She's the boss who has been passed over for promotion one too many times, whose evil is entirely fueled by her own sense of unacknowledged brilliance.
How could he do this to me? Why, I practically raised him.
But she is counterbalanced by Kronk, the henchman who is loyal, physically imposing, deeply confused, and most concerned with his culinary career. Their differences complement each other. Yzma's genius is in her theatricality and her sheer exasperation at the universe, and her henchman refusing to take her seriously. Kronk's genius is in his oblivious sincerity. This combination creates a rich, flawed personality that is a gift to the screen. They are so hilarious and enjoyable to watch that you even forget that they are the villains. That is how immersive their characters are. And that's the ticket. Human beings are wired to respond to authenticity, even if it is weird. Scarlet is written to tell us she's authentic. She brags, she poses, she demands attention. But we don't feel it because her actions don't line up with her claims. Her one true moment of menace happens in her first appearance, where she takes the stage to recruit new henchmen. She shows flair, power, and dominance at that point.
No one good enough?
But even that display of power kinda feels forced, as if the writers wanted so desperately to write a powerful woman. After all, they did push that sentiment in the beginning.
People said a woman could never rob a bank as well as a man.
Right. But after that moment, the illusion fades. Scarlet offloads her biggest task to 3 bumbling minions who stumble through success by accident. From a storytelling standpoint, this is a collapse of her threat level. And worse, Scarlet's whole image of style and power doesn't even come from her own ingenuity, but rather from her husband, Herb. He's the one who designs the gadgets, builds the weapons, and engineers those flashy red dresses with jetpacks and hidden tricks.
Fully armed and loaded. And that glow? That's nuclear.
Herb is a tinkerer, a genius inventor who actually gives Scarlet her sense of spectacle. And without him, she'd just be a loud woman in a cocktail dress. The irony is that the side character has more substance than the villain herself. Herb's gadgets are clever, his dialogue has more humor, and his creativity is what makes Scarlet look impressive at all. Instead of amplifying her, though, it highlights her emptiness, because we realize the spectacle isn't really hers, but borrowed, or rather mandated, by marriage. Don't get us wrong, we are not saying that using henchmen or having a brilliant sidekick is wrong, but the problem is that villains need to earn the audience's respect, even if it's through incompetence that's charming or failure that's stylish. Scarlet doesn't. She stays loud but without depth. The audience grows colder the more she insists on her heat. And aside from the over-explaining of Scarlet's character, another problem is her inconsistency. This is something not peculiar to Yzma and Kronk. Yzma, for one, wants the throne, and everything she does from beginning to end is tied to that singular obsession. Kronk amplifies it by existing in his own world, with a love for cooking and shoulder angel debates.
Where's the other guy?
Sorry, I'm late.
He doesn't break the consistency of his personality either. He's always Kronk, and because both characters are fully themselves, the audience bonds with them even as they fail. Not to mention that their failure is also part of their style. There's also something to be said about their voices. Eartha Kitt voices Yzma, and her every word drips with venom, vanity, and frustration. The voice alone creates character. And then there's Patrick Warburton as Kronk, whose deadpan delivery of nonsense makes weirdness cool. The writing serves the voices, and the voices elevate the writing, creating synergy. Yzma's design is consistent with her character and perfectly serves the purpose of humor. Her skeletal figure, her exaggerated lashes, and her purple gown make her look like a mix between royalty and a vulture. She looks like the embodiment of vanity that has decayed into bitterness.
Look at these wrinkles. What is holding this woman together?
Kronk, on the other hand, looks like he never missed a day at the gym. He is imposing, yet adorable because deep down, he is just a good guy with big muscles and a wicked boss. Their designs support their personalities, while Scarlet's design only supports the idea of her being flashy with a little substance. When you look at their roles in their stories, the paradox sharpens. Scarlet is technically central to Minions, but she never feels essential. The movie could swap her out with any other villain, and the story would still function the same way. She's a placeholder. Yzma and Kronk, though, are inseparable from the Emperor's New Groove. Their dynamic is so strong that they carry entire sequences by themselves, and the movie would collapse without them. They're villains, yes, but they're also the comedic engine of the film. That relevance makes them unforgettable. But personality is not enough. You need this other ingredient to write a villain the audience can't hate. And thankfully, we don't have to go far for this one. Okay, maybe a little far because it's 1997, and there's this guy.
Game, set, match.
So Hades already has everything we talked about in the first two acts. Personality and presence. But one other thing he has that makes it hard to hate him is his relatable purpose. Here's the key. When a villain has a motivation that feels true, something rooted in emotion, identity, injustice, or longing, the audience sees a kind of mirror, and they stay for that reflection. Hades, the Lord of the Underworld, is the ultimate example of the overlooked sibling and the perpetually overworked employee. His grand plan to overthrow Olympus is born from bitterness. He got stuck with the worst job, ruling the kingdom of dead souls, while his brother Zeus got the glory and the god jokes. This setup, where he was unfairly held down by his job, creates a genuine source of resentment. We might not want him to destroy the world, but we absolutely understand his frustration at being stuck in the cosmic equivalent of the mailroom. Ultimately, his goal is more about validation than domination. Dude just wants to be taken seriously, and at least let other gods laugh at his jokes for once.
Huh? So is this an audience or a mosaic?
Besides, the guy is actually funny, so they just must not like him, especially when they're cracking up over Zeus's generic gags.
Work yourself to death!
Anyway, the genius is that the writing provides Hades with a clear personal injustice. He is surrounded by gods who laugh at him and useless henchmen like Pain and Panic who can't even do their one job right. This constant frustration makes him sarcastic, quick-tempered, and strangely relatable. Also, let's not forget that Hades essentially gave Hercules purpose. By attempting to kill the infant god and making him near human, Hades inadvertently sets Hercules on the path to becoming a stronger, more complex hero. In a bizarre way, Hades became the necessary catalyst for Hercules to achieve his own dream. The villain is the reason the hero exists, and he is driven by a deep need for respect that we, the audience, recognize from our own lives. Now, let us look at the complete failure of this principle with Prince Charming from Shrek 2 and 3. Charming is the perfect example of a villain whose motivation is so hollow it makes him instantly forgettable. Charming's origin in Shrek 2 is simply that he was told it was his destiny to save Fiona.
It was destiny. His kiss would break the dreaded curse.
His entire existence is a result of his mom, the fairy godmother, and her grand plans. She is the true power, the brains, and the source of his entitlement. Charming is nothing more than a figurehead, a mama's boy, if you will. He is a handsome prop whose only job is to cash in on his mother's magical contracts. His desire for the princess, the throne, and the glory is entirely surface level, built on the premise that everything is owed to him. This is pure narcissistic entitlement, proving that his motivation is just the whining of a sheltered boy whose mommy couldn't fix his problems for him this time. In Shrek the Third, Prince Charming starts with a powerful, relatable goal: avenging his mother's death. But this potential for substance is quickly overwhelmed by the annoying, entitled Prince Charming we already know. His true purpose swiftly reduces itself from noble revenge to a quest for narcissistic validation. He orchestrates a takeover of Far, Far Away to seize the throne, yes, but mostly to force the entire kingdom to watch his spectacularly bad play, A Tale of True Love. This is the failure of his motivation. Charming uses his power for the pettiest form of validation, to compel an audience to admire him as the hero, even as he tries to kill the true hero, Shrek. He desperately seeks external approval that he can never earn on his own terms. This is almost the same motivation as those driving Hades. But Charming's performance is so self-absorbed and devoid of charm that he can't make anyone laugh or care.
I will slice this thing out like a ham!
He is heckled and ridiculed right up to his final pathetic moment. He's not a villain we love to hate. He's just a punchline we're glad to be rid of. The final lesson is clear. Hades has a purpose rooted in honest, relatable frustration and delivered with magnetic charm. But Prince Charming's personality makes his motivation and purpose annoying. But to completely make your audience have no choice but to love your villain, give them this next trait. With this, you can even make their purpose petty and the audience will still love them. Okay, let's be honest, most villains are afraid to go all in. They talk about power, control, destiny, but they hesitate because what they really want is to be understood or redeemed. But then there's Jack Horner, a man who doesn't care about any of that crap. He's just bad, and he loves it. and that's what makes him so much fun to watch. When he walks on screen in Puss in Boots, everything about him screams excess. His size, his voice, and how he walks paints a picture of someone who doesn't care about subtlety. He's big, loud, confident, and unapologetically cruel. The writers didn't give him a tragic backstory to justify his behavior. They made him the purest form of psychopath that we can't help but love. There's a strange honesty to a character like that. In a world full of villains trying to look cool while doing terrible things, Jack Horner strips the act away. He's pure ego, pure greed, and pure self. The audience enjoys him because he gives voice to what most people bury. That impulse to win at all costs and that childish joy of breaking the rules. Additionally, what keeps him interesting is how aware he is of his own evil. He knows he's the bad guy and leans into it, even mocking the idea of good and evil itself. That's why every line he delivers feels alive. His voice actor, John Mulaney, plays him with this perfect mix of theater and sarcasm, like a spoiled prince performing for himself. Unlike pussified villains like King Magnifico from Wish, he had the potential for greatness, but he was poorly written. We already made a full video that compares Jack Horner and King Magnifico in detail. If you want to see exactly why one works and the other doesn't, you can check it out on our channel. The point is, one way to make it hard for your audience to hate your villain is to give them balls. Not the audience, the villains. We've talked a lot about this already, so let this be another reminder. Never forget that the easiest way to hate a villain is if they are scared to be bad, like King Magnifico or the live-action remakes of The Evil Queen and Scar. These guys are unfortunately watered down to tragic entities and in the worst way possible. So to write truly tragic villains, you should definitely see this video about why Jinx is the perfect tragic villain.